Elaine Gunn. Today's date is April 27th, 1998, and I'm at the home of Mrs. Rozena Mitchell Rose. And Mrs. Rose has kindly consented to be a part of our oral history project that is part of the Invisible Community Project. Thank you very much, Rozena, for this interview.
My pleasure.
And I'm going to ask you to give me some information about your family background, such as who your parents were and where they were born. And if they weren't born in Massachusetts, then why did they come to Massachusetts, or why they came to Berkshire County in particular. So, and of course, if you have any information at all about your grandparents, please, we'd like to have that information also. So I'll stop and let you just sort of talk about your parents and your grandparents and where they came from and why they came here.
Making me think. My mother, Iola Mitchell, was born in Brooksville, Mississippi. Excuse me. And my grandmother, her mother, was born in Brooksville, Mississippi. And my mother came to Pittsfield, oh heavens, 1947, 40. Oh, I graduated in 49, so she had to have been here 45, 44 something, 1944. And she came to Pittsfield, and she worked at Foxhollow School. And she got to Pittsfield through an ad in the paper, I think was ran by the Crawfords in Great Barrington. And she got a job through their advertisement.
At Crawford.
Right.
Employment agency.
Employment agency, that's correct. And I remember her working at Foxhollow School. And then she sent for us, because we stayed with my grandmother. My mother used to teach school in Dothan, Alabama. And she worked in the summer, and in the winter, my grandmother took care of us. So anyway, we came up here in 1946. I was about 16. I remember losing a shoe on the way up here, because we stopped off to see my father. My mother was worried about where we were. We stopped in Pennsylvania. And I called her, and we were supposed to, we were a day late, and she was having, you know. But anyway, we came up here, and I went to school here in Pittsfield High School. And I have two brothers. And my oldest brother was living with my father, and my youngest brother and I lived with my mother here in Pittsfield.
What year did you graduate from Pittsfield High?
1949.
So your mother came to Massachusetts really to work. Okay. And then decided that all of you should come to.
Well, the whole object was to send for us.
To send,
right,
and to set up housekeeping here in Pittsfield.
Right, because we were like my grandmother during the winter months, because my mother taught school, and she wanted, to be with us.
Okay, good. Now you mentioned your grandparents. Now your maternal grandparents, your mother's parents, are from Mississippi.
Right.
Okay, and your father's
parents was from Birmingham.
Oh, Birmingham.
But that's where we came from, Birmingham to Pittsfield. I was born in Birmingham.
Okay, okay, all right.
Okay. But my mother was born in Brooksville, Mississippi. But I was born in Birmingham, Alabama. And my father's parents are from Birmingham, Alabama.
Okay.
And my mother went to school there. She graduated from college and so forth.
And they stayed in Mississippi for the most part, except for your mother.
No, she was born in Mississippi.
Mississippi.
But then they moved to Birmingham.
Birmingham.
And when my mom was younger, and she went to school, and then she graduated from college, and then she taught school in Dothan, Alabama. So, but my father's people are all from Birmingham.
Is your mother still living?
No, my mother died in 1981.
Here in Pittsfield?
In Pittsfield.
Oh, Pittsfield. I don't remember ever meeting.
You went to my house. You came to my house. Did you ever come to my house?
No, I don't remember. Just remember
just the dances
and parties.
Because my mother used to go to the dances every once in a while.
Okay.
And watch us dance.
Okay. So I probably did see her there, just didn't know.
But she's a very quiet little lady.
Okay. All right. Okay. So you mentioned that you were born then in Alabama. Okay. So you've lived in Pittsfield since 1946. Okay. And you mentioned about your mother having a scent for you. And you said brothers and sisters.
Right.
Have
I
how many?
have two brothers.
Two brothers and no sisters.
No sisters.
Okay. You must have been spoiled.
That's-
A little bit.
Yes, a little bit. Only to my family.
Only to your
not
family.
for outside.
Yeah. So your brothers' names are?
Edward Mitchell Jr. and Alfonso Mitchell. Edward is the oldest.
Okay.
I'm in the middle, and Alfonso is the baby.
Now, do they still live in Pittsfield?
No, Edward lives in Berkshire, Maryland. That's right outside of Silver Springs. And Alfonso lives in Burlington, Vermont,
How did he get to Burlington, Vermont?
working at the GE.
Oh,
Because
so
Eddie used to live there too. He worked at the
Okay.
GE.
Okay.
So that's how my baby brother got up there.
Okay.
But then, you know how they will send you from one GE
Mhm.
to another. And he chose, because of his children, he liked the environment in Berkshire, Maryland. So,
Okay. But Burlington, Vermont, there are not a lot of us who are in
No.
Vermont anyhow.
now, he wanted his kids to be exposed to black people because they never had
Yeah.
been. So he moved to Berkshire.
Interesting, okay. So some of your family then have left the area. You have a brother who
I
is-
don't have any family, me personally, just kids here.
Yeah, but
I
left
have-
the area, but your brother, your one brother who was in,
Oh, right.
and then the other is in
Right.
Burlington. Do you ever go up to Burlington?
Well, do I have both of them?
No, do you ever go up there? Did you go up there?
No, I haven't been, my kids have been up there. I haven't been
Mhm.
up there yet. He usually come and visit us.
Good.
Mhm. So we were thinking about going up this summer, because it's beautiful.
It's beautiful
It's beautiful.
country.
My
Oh,
kids
yeah.
love it.
Oh, it's beautiful.
Mhm. They went up to visit him, and they went the World's Fair.
Okay.
They had a chance to go up there for
Okay.
that.
That's
In
not
Canada,
bad.
they went to Canada.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, it's wonderful, beautiful country. Not in the winter, but
Mhm.
so you mentioned that they left because one wanted to expose
He
his
left
children
Vermont because he had a better job in, I think it was Washington.
to.
And but he couldn't find housing in Washington, you know, where he wanted to expose his kids to blacks because they had not.
They had not been exposed in
Been
Burlington,
exposed, right.
Vermont. So they must have gone to, they must probably were the only black children in schools in
That's what he
Burlington.
said, right.
Yeah.
So,
So the children are still down there at this, his children?
his
are-
children, no, they are married and
They're married,
scattered. As a
scattered
matter
around.
of fact, his oldest daughter married, Eddie's,
Mhm.
my other brother's not married.
Mhm.
Edward's oldest daughter married, she married a white fellow from Schenectady, New York.
Isn't that interesting?
Close to us,
Yeah.
yes.
Isn't that interesting?
And
Yeah.
so he has another son up there in Burlington with my brother.
Uh-huh.
He didn't move with them.
Uh-huh.
And the other one, he lives in Philadelphia, I think, or someplace.
Uh-huh. Interesting, isn't that something?
Yes.
When you were growing up, did you have any other extended family members living with you or anybody else? And sometimes we have had
Right.
other family members.
No, not really. My grandmother, you know, raised us
Mm-hmm.
to the extent that my mother had to work. And during the winter months, she was totally away, but she took care of us. And
So you lived with the grandparents then?
Right.
Mhm.
My baby brother and I, because we were split up, there was a thing that my oldest brother lived with my father
Mhm.
and his mother,
In,
which is my father's friend.
your
My father's mother.
Yeah, your father's mother,
Right.
yes. Okay. Now you've been married.
Oh, yes. Many times.
Well, that's not very many now, you know.
Well,
people who've been married.
okay.
Anybody have?
Yeah, I guess that's true.
And you have children?
Right. I had 9 children.
From?
My first marriage was to Frederick Conyers, and he was from Bronx, New York. And his family, lovely, lovely people. And I had,
It's nice that you can say that.
oh, my in-laws, they were lovely. They still are, they're Christians, all of them. And they are family-oriented people. And it was really wonderful. They helped me a lot with the kids. I had 5 twins, Sabrina and Freddie. I had 4 by my first marriage. And I had, my second marriage was to Charlie Rose. He's from North Adams. And I had 5 children by him. I had a set of twins by each husband.
Oh, isn't
My
that
oldest were identical
fascinating?
twins, and my babies was a boy and a girl,
Oh,
but they were
isn't that
twins.
fascinating?
And this one and Michael have the same birthday, a year apart.
Oh, wow.
So I have 3 sets of kids the same.
Wow, isn't that fascinating? And you've survived all of it.
I sure did. Both of my husbands have deceased.
Oh, are they really? Oh,
Yeah.
you're still here.
Going strong.
Going strong.
Praise God.
Yes, I don't think I remember you.
Did you know Geraldine Alexander?
I know the
She
Alexander.
married McBride.
There was an Alexander, something
Oh,
Alexander.
Right. Her first husband was, he worked at the Cadillac place on South Street. Walter Alexander. I'm
Walter
sure you
Alexander.
remember Walter. That was her husband, her
Okay.
first husband.
Okay.
I married her brother, and they're from North Adams.
Okay.
Okay. She used to live with Lil. When they had
Lil
the beauty
Williams.
parlor, Lil was her guardian.
Okay. Okay. There were a lot of those children, if I remember correctly, that
Okay.
Bill Williams raised.
Right. Well,
Yeah.
she was one of them.
Okay.
And I
Okay.
married her
But I
brother.
remember hearing Walter Alexander's name.
Ah,
Because he
okay.
has a daughter named Tracy.
Tracy. That's right. And Charlie Rose, her uncle, he used to pal around with the Mabel's brothers, the boxer, North Adams. Mabel Hamilton.
I know maybe, but I don't,
Her
you don't
brother.
know any of those people from North Adams. Never knew
Oh,
any of them,
okay.
except the Greens,
All right, the Greens.
the Green girls.
Okay, now her son married Tracy's sister,
Oh.
but they are divorced now. He's married again.
Okay.
Small world. isn't
Small
it?
world, absolutely, small world.
Yes.
Wow. How did you meet? How did you meet your husband?
Well, I was living a double house. Geraldine owned the house, and she rented to me the other half of her house. And her brother came from Boston to visit. And I'm living next door with my kids, my 4 kids.
Yes.
Me 4, no more. And we met.
Uh-huh. And your first husband,
I left him.
He was in-
He went to New York. We went back to
okay.
New York.
How did you meet him? Was he living
Oh,
here?
I met him on a blind date. Okay, I met him. Oh, you're really making me think. You remember? She has a upholstery business.
Lil.
Lil, right,
I know you.
Lil. Well, her son had met Freddie. And he came up here with Vivian Hannibal. Galden. Okay, her son. You remember Vivian Hannibal? Did you know him? Well, anyway, her husband, he was a much younger man than she was. He was our age. And they came up here together from New York. There were 3 of them. And Galden, Charlie Galden, he introduced me to my husband through a blind date.
Okay.
We went to a party one night.
Yeah.
He was very quiet.
Uh-huh.
And that he treated me because my mouth was so big.
I
Yes,
don't
that's
remember
how-
him. I don't remember.
He was around.
Yeah, I just don't remember it. Chris, the funny thing, when we were all young and going to the same parties and dances, and then we got married, and then began,
Right.
taking
And
care
going
of-
our different ways, taking care of
exactly,
business.
taking care of
right.
them, taking care of children, raising
Right,
children.
right.
Very
And also,
different.
you were in Great Barrington.
I was in Great Barrington.
And I was here. And
Pittsfield.
only if we were shopping or something, we would.
Exactly. It was very different. It was
Very
very different, yes. You belong to a church, I know you do, so you want to tell us about your church affiliation?
Oh, you don't want me to talk all day, do you?
No, just,
Yes, I go to, it's an interdenominational church. It's the church next to the Big Y.
okay.
Okay, that building. And God has truly blessed me. I gave my life to the Lord when my son died. He died in 72. And I was born again in 73 because my life was just, I had lost my husband a year prior. And, it was just me and 9 children, it's just, it was real hard. So, anyway, I go to church there, and I really has made Christianity my lifestyle.
Great. I said you lost your husband. This is your second husband.
Charlie Rose
Charlie,
was my second husband. But
He
I
died
lost
in-
him, and then a year later, my son.
Your son. He died suddenly here in Pittsfield?
He drowned. He was going to university.
I know your son was. but
Oh,
your-
Charlie. No, he was working in Florida, and he was on his way back to Pittsfield, and he had a thrombosis, and he had to go
Coronary.
off the road into the hospital to die. So we had to get him from Roundtree, North Carolina, Rocky Mountain, North Carolina to, no, it was Roundtree, North Carolina to Pittsfield.
What a trauma.
Yeah, so
Yes.
I can write a book.
Obviously, oh dear.
Praise God.
I
I'm blessed,
understand, yes, but, so you've had a lot of tragedy, but you've come through it somehow. I think faith.
Yes.
Yes, yes. What about some of the church memories you have of growing up? You know,
I did not grow up in church. What happened was, let me backtrack. I went to a Baptist church, down south is Baptist, okay? But my mother, she sent me to Sunday school. And that's about the extent of my church. But for some reason, I've always believed, I didn't understand. I remember as a young girl standing in the yard wondering how this got here, how that, and looking up, you know. So I've always had a belief, but I didn't know how to put it in context until after my son died. And supernaturally, things happened to me. It was amazing.
It's kept you going. Wonderful. Did your family have reunions and things like that?
Okay.
Because they were scattered.
Well, because my family is so big, everybody would come here. Now, my in-laws I mentioned, they used to come here. And because, you know, and I had this big house, and we all gathered, congregated here. And I considered them as very much a part of my family. Because, see, I never had a sister. These are girls. Pastor, one of them was a pastor, and, you know, they prayed me in. And they just really lived before me in life. And we used to congregate here. Now, my brother in Silver Springs, we don't see each other too often. But Alfonso, we do. And so he comes up here.
The other
Okay.
brother.
Right. But as far as a family reunion for cousins and all, no. No, we haven't had that. I talked to my brother about it, but we wouldn't know whether we didn't find the cousins. Because our family's just three of us, and my mother was an only child.
Oh.
But I made up the difference.
Yes, you have. But you must have gone to picnics and things like that.
Oh, I used to have them. And
Okay.
my mother started. We used to go to lakes.
Okay.
And we everybody congregate, friends and everybody else. And, my mom used to buy all the food. You know, like people come and bring, if you wanted to bring a dish, you did, but most times people didn't bring a dish. And we'd do all the cooking. We'd go to the lake and have a wonderful time. Then, you know, I bought this house, and we used to have a backyard, and we'd all congregate here. And, it's just been recently that I stopped doing that, because it's just too much work.
So you and your second husband lived here? Okay.
Matter of fact, we bought the house, and he died. I think we got things together. It was just a matter of a few months, I think, because he came and did the floors for me, and then he went to Florida. He wanted me to come down there and spend a couple of days, and I said no, and because we wasn't getting along too well, so you know, just separate for a while and see. And that's what happened. He died on his way back home.
Now, where did you live in Pittsfield while you were going to
School.
school?
311 Columbus Avenue, Flatiron Block.
Okay. I don't know the.
Yeah, Riverside on the corner.
Oh, okay.
In the Flatiron Block right next to it.
Okay.
That's
okay.
where
The big apartment building.
that brick building.
Okay.
It's been gone so many years, you probably forgot.
Yeah. I have forgotten.
Yeah, right next to the
Okay.
Riverside.
Okay.
That's
So then you
where I live.
So you walked to school.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Oh,
Are you a member of any civic organization, any community organization, with church, etc.?
No, I used to be.
Mhm.
I was an activist
Okay.
some years ago with a school program called Follow Through. And I was very much involved in the community.
Nancy Hall was in that.
And after I gave my life to the Lord, I just let go all of that and found out who I was, and then I began to see the truth of things. Nobody asked me, so I don't bother. I'm just involved with the church.
But you say you're not really an activist now, but just since I've been here, I've noticed that people
Oh, yeah.
apparently
But
gravitate
it
to
comes
and
under
children
a
see-
different, it comes under a different, well, oh, I see what you're saying. Okay, that's true, but that's my lifestyle. And people
So people
gravitate
see
to it.
you as,
I don't know. If they come to me, I won't turn them away.
yeah, as someone they can come to for help if they need to.
Right. But
And you
it's
offer-
not me, it's just not anything I do.
Well, it's
Well, I
not
mean,
you. I don't-
in other words, there's nothing like, for example, when I was an
You don't have a
activist.
shingle, but you.
Right, I was an activist in the community, and they knew where Rozena is with follow through in this organization and that organization. She's on the board here and she's on the board there, and she, okay. Well, I had an identity, okay,
Yeah.
but I'm not that. When people call me, they know that I'm a Christian. For example,
They're looking
when
for some spiritual.
right. For example, a lady, young woman, came to see me, and I knew she, and I said, now, you want to talk to me, that's fine, but you know what I represent. She said, I know. And I took her up to my bedroom, and she had been diagnosed with cancer. And we sat and we talked. You see what I'm saying? So my identity is not the same as before. When people talk to me, they know who they're talking to. And I will tell the truth. And if you need something, then I'll point you to where you need to go to get it. Something. You call that an act?
Well, no, that's something very
Oh,
special. I don't know what that is, but it's something very special, that obviously that you can, that you have this.
I love people.
Obviously, and you can reach out to people
And-
when they need help.
Well, yeah.
And they feel
But
they
they
can come
reach to
you.
me,
Reach
and
out to
but
you.
that amazes me. They
Yeah.
reach out to me.
Then you have some special quality that enables them, enables you to help these people reach out.
Well, that's the Christ, because He gives me wisdom. It amazes me sometimes what comes out of my mouth.
Wonderful. Wonderful. We don't know, do we, what's in store for us?
Oh, I tell you, it's great things.
Yes. Well, tell me about, you went to high school here in
Pittsfield.
Pittsfield, but you went to elementary school, obviously, in Alabama. Okay. Now, what memories do you have about your school experience here? And maybe you could talk a little bit about how they might compare with the school experiences you had in Alabama.
Oh, in Alabama? Well, in Alabama, in Pittsfield, it was different there because I was in the 9th grade when I left there. I came here in the 10th grade. And it was amazing in school. I guess I was friendly, but I wasn't friendly. Because this was a whole different environment. This was a white environment. I came out of a black environment. And they didn't know how to take me, and I guess I didn't know how to take them. So I couldn't say I was standoffish. I was friendly to everybody. But I guess that's kind of my personality anyway, I guess. I don't force my way in on anything, yet I can be friendly if we're there.
Yeah.
I liked school, but I learned how to manipulate the teachers to become the teachers. I didn't disturb anything. I see other kids getting in trouble, and I remember skipping school for 30 days.
Pittsfield or in Alabama?
Pittsfield High School, 30 days.
How did you get away
And
with that?
we went, I was a leader. I knew what to do not to get caught. I went where people wouldn't expect you to be. See, they go where you're going to get caught. And I said, no. We go back to school. And the dean, we had deans at that time. Well, I know Rozena, because I'd never been in trouble before. Rozena didn't leave. You guys just let Rozena, they got expelled.
Oh, my goodness.
I went
So there
back
were
to
others
class.
with you?
Oh, yeah, there was about 5 of us.
Oh, wow. All girls or what?
Girls. And we just go to my house, get out in time for my mom came home from work. And how we got caught and ran into my mother's boyfriend. And that's when we got caught. And I said, I'm going to school tomorrow. No, I'm going to school tomorrow because my mom, she's going to kill me. And but I didn't get expelled from school because I'd never We know Rozena didn't leave. We knew you were leaving. And
Something.
But see, I'm not a very good follower if you don't know what you're doing.
That's amazing. Oh, yeah, that's amazing.
That was amazing. I look back on that. But today, well, anyway, compared to the school in Birmingham, I was teacher's pet.
Okay.
And my mother, see, down south, you had to buy all of your books.
Yeah, I've heard that.
The school didn't provide that for you.
And they were segregated at that time.
Oh, yes. Oh, yes. And my mother, everything I needed, I had. I had all my pencils and my books. And I remember my mother went over to the school once, and the teacher said, she is perfect. We have no problem with her, but she just don't want anybody to bother her or use her things. And that wasn't dope, you know.
Yeah.
And I learned how to protect myself when one year I went to school. I stayed with my father's mother, and I went to school there for a few months. I don't remember what, but they used to whip me coming home from school because these were over there on that side of town. They were kind of rough. Where I lived with my mother, we were nice little friends. And my brother, I never forget it, took a sideboard off a fence. No, not my brother. My brother's friend. He said, now, she's not going to beat you today. Her name was Queenie. They used to take my lunch money, take my lunch. And I said, you're going to beat her today. And they stood over me while I just, you know, I never had no problem.
I bet you didn't. I bet you didn't.
And it felt good. I was fighting, protecting myself. And from that point on, nobody ever bothered me. I never got in fights. They told me all they had to do was look in my eyes.
Yeah.
If I got in an argument or anything, and because I tell people, leave me alone, walk away.
Yeah.
And they said they'd look at me and they knew.
Isn't that something? Interesting. Isn't
It's
that
terrible.
interesting? Well, tell me now, when you were going to school in Pittsfield, going to Pittsfield High, did you have any white friends?
Not outside of school.
In
Matter of
school?
fact. Well, in school, I was congenial with everybody. And I talked to anyone. In lunch, you would sit and talk. But after school, because during those days, it was segregated. One thing I learned about coming up here, now that I didn't like it, and I still have not adjusted to Pittsfield, up here, is that everything is under the rug. It's like a snake crawling under the rug, but you know it's there. You see
know
it.
it's there.
Okay.
Yeah.
But down south, you know it was in the open. Okay. And our best friends were white people, but they would say, would use the word nigger, but honey, that's mine. We're gonna take care. And they did. If you went to jail, they'd take care, get you out of jail, they'd take care of your families. It was different, okay? Because the people my mother worked for, we couldn't go in the front door, we went in the back door, but that family took care of us. They were rich, they had money, and they took care of us. You know, we had needs, they would take care of us. But up here, it was so different. And I had not that trust. You know, so, but people went their separate ways. I only had 2 best friends since I've been in Pittsfield. I guess I'm lucky to have had 2 best friends.
Yeah.
And one was Rosemary Chambers. Remember Rosemary?
Yeah, I think that name
She and I
was
used to be
in-
together all the time. We
yeah.
used to go to dances together.
Yeah.
Jimmy Williamson's father
Okay.
of Rhymesworth.
Yeah.
His father, his name was Jimmy Williams.
Yes.
He used to go with my mother. Okay.
His father,
He
Jim
should go with my
Williams'
mother.
father, he went with him. Okay.
Right.
went that.
And then his daughter and I became very close friends.
His oldest daughter.
His oldest daughter, Rosemary.
Okay.
We used to go to dances together all the time.
Okay.
And then the other one was with Mabel Hamilton.
Okay. Oh, so you and Mabel are friends? Yes.
Yeah, we got together through activists in the community.
Because I know has been an activist.
Right. I was chairman of the board, and she was the coordinator. So we got together through that. We used to work together.
Isn't that something? Yeah. I see Mabel more than I see you. I see sometimes. Well, she sings at various things.
Right. Right.
But anyhow, yeah. Well, interesting. So then you didn't go to any of the. Did you go to any of the dances at Pittsfield High when they would have dances there?
No. No, because during that time we were having our own dances.
Yes.
The CIO Hall. We used to, because as a teenager I was beginning to come out, and my mother used to take us,
Yes.
and they'd sit and watch us dance.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
So, no, because their dances was totally different. We considered them little baby things.
Yes. What I can remember, You know, they used to have something at the Y on Friday nights, and they have some kind of little dances at the Y. I know we came from Great Barrington a couple of times.
They might have.
Something, what were they called? They would, wait a minute, some little dances that they would have. From
I might
7 to
have went
11.
in and looked
Yes. Mm-hmm.
and then left.
Yes.
But I don't think
They
they
were
had
having.
big name bands coming in. Louis Jordan was in Albany, and little Ivy, and we was going. Yes, we had other things. Of course, that was big time for
Big
us.
time.
And the little things they had here was
I remember going over to see Duke Ellington over on
right,
and Jimmy Munster.
right.
Yes. The kind of jobs that you've done or held or throughout your life, remember? You remember your first one?
My first one, yes. I was 16 years old, and I worked in the sanitary laundry after school, on weekends. And that's when I began to buy my clothes, had money, and I just warmed up. And I held that job for a number of years. Excuse me, and then I went from there to
What you do after high school, after graduation?
you remember Bill Moorhead?
Sure, I come from Moorhead.
Well, we were engaged to get married. And
Forgotten about Bill Moorhead.
and I must have been about 18, right after high school. And we were going to get married. And I caught him in a compromised position, so we broke that off. So I go around broken heart for a year or so. And I'm trying to remember, I went into, I waited tables because I had planned to go to college. And I had begun to buy some clothes and things, but it just didn't work out, and my interest was gone. So I started working in Lenox. I waited tables. I did a lot of waitress work, especially during the season. Amalocking, I worked there, and I would chambermaid because they were open year round.
Sure.
And I used to, because I was congenial with people, I made a lot of tips. So
Were you down there when Jenny Pettyjohn was working there?
yeah, we got a lot of people down there because we came when he first opened. His sister married Kaufman, Toy. That was his sister. She came up. The Rappaports from New York. They
So
had
they had the money. I know he didn't. Michael.
The brother who owned it, Skip.
Who ran it. Somebody who ran it, yeah.
So,
Yeah.
yeah, so I worked with them for because then I got married, had twins, and I went back to work down there. And then I did various jobs in waitressing. And then I decided to go to school. But then I had a lot of kids because I was having babies, boom, 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 and I had them every year. So I would do housework, and then I'd go back and if I could pick up a waitress job because I liked that, and there were good tips. Then I started volunteering in the community as an activist, and that really took up a great portion of my time because my kids was in school, and that's how it started, by being interested in school and what they were doing. Then I went from there to Berkshire County Extension Service, and I worked for them for a number of years, and set up programs, some of the programs over the years that they still have some programs that we set up at the Extension Service. And I used to go into homes and do different stuff. And then I went to work at Shaker E.
So the
I
variety
stayed
of
with
jobs.
them until they closed.
Now, when did they close?
1988.
It was quite a while.
Right.
10 years.
And they went to New York State, so I just retired from that. But as far as me retiring, I think
You
I'm
have
busy
retired.
now.
Yeah.
Because I had kids with me then, too.
Yeah.
I go to work. So my life has always been busy.
Busy, yes, yeah. And that's good. It's kept you young looking and young. That's great. When you were, a little bit about your childhood and teenage memories that which you've already touched on. The kinds of games you played, for instance.
Oh, I remember as a little girl, you know, parents was very strict. You didn't go to anybody's house unless they were there, if you was out of the community, out of the neighborhood. Now, in the neighborhood, you could go up and down the street as long as they could see you when they come to the door. And I loved to play. I used to like sports. I used to love to play baseball. Okay.
Were you involved in sports in high school at all?
In high school.
You were here at
Right.
Pittsfield High?
I played field hockey and baseball.
Okay.
In high school. Oh, I played basketball too.
Okay.
I was a guy. And I forgot about that. I like sports even today. I like sports on TV. But as a kid, I used to like to play games, hopscotch. I loved it because I was competitive.
Yeah.
I like to do things that were competitive. That there was always a winner. Running.
Yeah.
I used to like that. And my mother, when she went to visit her friends, I loved staying out after dark because then we could stay outside and play after dark as long as Mom was visiting with her and I could play with the kids.
That sounds familiar. Yeah. Do you remember learning anything in school, any recitations? You remember sometimes people have things that they remember, used to recite all the time, especially elementary school.
Yes, we had recitations, and as I said, I was teacher's pet, and they would put me up front because I could always remember, and I'd be trying to do your best. Well, when you're the teacher's pet, you're motivated.
You're motivated.
Because they motivate you, and they always put you out there. So I did. But then when I came to Pittsfield, I can remember having an accent. Okay. Now, they told me that I had the accent, and I said, no, I do not have an accent. You do. See, because I couldn't hear me the way I heard everybody else hear.
Yes.
Right? So when I went to school, my English teacher, Mrs. Smile, and I'll never forget it, I sat in the back because I didn't want to, you know. And what she did, she put me on the front row, right in front of her. And she says, I'm going to have you read every day. And she did. But that was positive attention. Yeah. And I bloomed.
We were talking about 10th grade in Pittsfield High.
And I remember sonics, symbols in English, and poetry, writing of poetry. And this was in the 10th grade, and I had her again in the 12th grade. And what I was a student in her class because she went over, seniors used to repeat all what you had. And I remember in poetry writing, I loved it, and she would always call out me, and I would read, and that really brought out my diction. And she'd say, no, you pronounce this word, because Massachusetts, I used to pronounce Massachusetts. Yes. You know, and she would correct me. And it got to the place I was not embarrassed. And the kids said, oh, your teacher's pet. Yeah. But I can remember that. Yes, she put a lot of time in.
That's wonderful. I think it's good that usually there is one teacher or so that who spent time with you or who really thought you were worth something, who valued you.
Right.
And
I liked
math.
Yes. I was good in my math class too. But see, if you were motivated, it was easy for them to go along with. Yeah. Same today.
It's the same today. Yeah. Now, when you were growing up in your mother's home or in your grandmother's home, did you have chores to do?
Yes. My chore down south, we owned our home, and we had gardens on each side, and we had cherry trees, peach trees. And out in the back, we had a coal house. And my job was to keep, we had fireplaces, and we had potbelly stoves. And my job was to keep wood and coal in the house. And then I had to wash dishes. That was my job, because I was little. And I got to the point I was very meticulous about my clothes. And I did not like cat faces in my clothes, so I had to learn to iron real early, because my grandmother said, I'm not ironing your clothes. And nobody could iron my clothes to suit me. So my mother could, but my grandmother couldn't. She'd leave cat faces. So I was, I must have been about 9 years old, and I learned to iron.
And certainly it's stood you in good stead even today. I'm certain it's been good for you even today.
Oh, yes. Everything we learned, that's good.
That's good, yes. had a beginning somewhere.
Right.
And speaking of things that you learned, what kinds of values did you learn from your parents?
Oh,
important things.
Number one, you respect your parents, or you will have to go outside. We had peach trees, right? And pull 3 limbs, because peach tree limbs are very thin. And you braid the peach tree limbs, and you come in the house, and you lay on the floor and give me your legs, and my mom got me right this time. Because I was the one that she had to really, I was a
Mind of your own.
Oh, yes, I had a mind of my own. Alfonso, he was so nice and passive. And when anything went down, she knew that I let it. You know, mom, no kids.
Yes.
But number one, and I loved my mom. I loved my grandmother. They were very sweet people. But they were very strict, but they loved me, and I knew that. And there were rules in our house, and I had to abide by those rules. Not only in the house, I had to respect the people in the community. When I passed, now, down south, there's a habit of calling aunt and uncle. That's not aunt and uncle. I wasn't allowed to do that. But I called Mrs. Jones by her name, Mrs. Jones. I always put a handle. Good morning, Mrs. Jones. I better not walk past Mrs. Jones' house when she's sitting on the porch. How are you, baby? They call me Babe. Babe? Oh, you're growing, Babe. Yes, Miss Jones. And that was people on the street. And we couldn't do nothing out of order because it got back to my mother before I got home.
Oh, yes, I remember that.
Oh, yes. But it was good. It was good, especially for me, because my personality is the type that, you know, it can be strong, you know. But my mother knew how to handle me. My grandmother was very strict, but my mother was like this. And when I went to a movie, I always wrote to ask her if I could go, or any place I went. And then she would say, if it's okay, yes, and then she'd send me the money, and then I would go, you know. But I look back on my life, and I appreciate that, because it gave me some discipline within me.
And did it also help you pass this on to your own children?
Yes, and it helped me not to take some things, because my own kids, it's time to go. It's time for us to part ways. And that's your lifestyle, it's not mine. Right, because see, I had 9 kids, and I had 6-footers, and I was short. I'm down here, and let's talk.
Yes.
It did help me.
Oh, it certainly did, yeah. Very important, aren't they?
Sure is.
And you mentioned the discipline that your parents used, and treating others, older people in particular. I remember that. Very key, very important. Sometimes, I know we, in our family, and many other families, African-American families in particular, when you were growing up and you got a job, when you were, I think, 11 or 12 or 13 or so, and you got a job, you would contribute to the family, you know, 50 cents or a dollar, part of whatever you earned. Did you ever do that?
Okay, the way my mother did it, I told you I was working 16. I was working longer. We made good money when you work after school and in the weekends, right? What my mother did, we furnished the house. Now, my brother, he took care of the kitchen. My mom took care of the big stuff, like refrigerator and stuff like that. She took care of that, because every so often furniture needs to be replaced. Okay, and my brother bought my brother bought the kitchen set. I bought the bedroom set because I saw, here I go again, I didn't want that. Mom said, well, you go buy it. Okay, so I bought the whole thing, all the pieces to the bedroom set. And then we'll buy little things like tape players and, you know, to little things to make the house comfortable. And we wanted it, my mother said, you buy it. And that's the way. She didn't take any money, but we bought for the house. Like I wanted wallpaper in the living room, well, you go in there and you do it.
It's a great way. Yeah, so it makes all of you, it belongs to home for everybody.
Right, we were all responsible because, see, now, there were, we didn't have a father. So it was just my mother and us, you know. So we were very close. And that's another thing that's very, very important to me. My mother, I can remember saying, her telling us, we were teenagers now, you know, I don't care where I am, but you kids should always stick together. You should always be there for one another. Because that extended mentality was there, because my great-grandmother was Indian, Cherokee Indian. and she was going to adopt me. And the reason for that was she had some money coming if she had a child. And I was her baby, okay? And my mom said she used to carry me around on a pillow, but she died before the adoption went through, okay? But there was always, my grandmother was very much a part in all of that. Okay, now I don't, well, 3 months old, I don't remember my great-grandmother. But I saw pictures of her brother and her, and they had the long braids, and, you know. And so that mentality was always there, because my grandmother helped my mother with us. So this is the way it has come up. But I noticed one thing, divorces has been prevalent. Once it's here, and they go, and I noticed broken families goes right down the line. There's something there that has to be broken in order to stop it. But that has come through. And the addiction in my family, and goes back to the Indian tribes where they drank, going back. And it come through even on my husband's side. Both husbands, they were drinkers. And I married them both, so that says something there. I mean, I know what it is now, but that was a part of it. But as far, it's there, it's even with my kids. But as far as the respect for me and the closeness, it's still there. Now, my kids, they do their thing, but they will not bring it around me. And when they feel like talking, they'll tell me anything. When they feel, I don't go and pry. The ones that's married, if they come to me, I can know whatever. But if you come to me, we'll sit down, we'll talk about it, and I will tell you the truth. But other than sticking my nose in it,
Well, something we just
right. But we remain a very close family. If there's problems, we'll help you, and if I can't help you, bye.
Well, it's good that you have that relationship.
Like taking care of my grandchildren, I leave that space for their parents. If their parents get their lives together, that bonding, that's your child. That's what I was telling this young lady here. And a lot of things I talk about, I've lived it, so I know. So, and they want to know, well, how can you do that? It's just something that I know I can do. I bond as a grandmother. Well, that's it. I'm a grandmother. I'm not a mother. And I leave that space for mom and dad. And that, because I have that respect for them, too.
I'm sure.
So it's kind of strange, but
No,
I look at my family that's
works.
supposed to be so dysfunctional and dealing with the law and the courts and all this, and then I look inside of other families who look so good out here, and I said, my God.
Then you know.
That's like
But every family, I believe, has
Well,
a part that's dysfunctional.
every family's dysfunctional until Jesus put it together.
Yes, exactly.
But society says what they, it's okay. But I do maintain that respect, and I give it, and I expect it from my kids and anybody that's around me. And if you can't give it, we need to part ways. And that's what my kids.
I'm certain they understand that.
Oh,
And your grandchildren understand that. It's very important. Do you have any favorite recipes or some that your mother or grandmother still prepared?
Now, I'm not a baker, but I cook. I didn't do cooking as a youngster. My grandmother used to bake breads and everything because we didn't have money, potato bread. I love it, and she did all the cooking in the canning. My mother didn't either. So it was simple things that my mother cooked. But I learned how to cook when I had kids and didn't have much money and very little. I learned to be resourceful. I learned to make something out of nothing. When you have 9 kids and you do it. Now that's when I really learned how to cook. So favorite, I don't think so. My kids can tell you the favorite is what's the cheapest on the market? Because I don't buy anything, even clothes, unless it's on sale.
Yeah, well, it's good because today.
But I learned to do that from having a lot of kids and having to, buy 9 pair of shoes at one time. You go where you can get your discounts.
Yes, exactly.
So that's
And we've all learned that, I believe. And thank goodness
Right.
for the discount stores.
Right. But favorite, no, I don't guess I have a favorite.
Do you have any hobbies?
Reading. I like to read. I like to travel. That I love to travel and meet people. But since I've been with grandchildren, I had a space between the twins when they graduated from high school and they went to work. And a space between there for maybe a couple of years before I took my first grands that I used to travel. I used to go to conventions a lot. I go to Christian, conventions and things, and I used to fly. I love that. I love meeting new people. And I suppose you could call that, would you call that a hobby?
Certainly, traveling is certainly a hobby.
But meeting
Meeting people.
strangers.
Yeah, yes, yes.
I love to meet
Like,
people.
Yes, meet people. Sure, yeah. I think it's
I
great.
went to Pittsburgh a few weeks ago for 3 days with the church, and I wasn't with the church. There were about 30 ladies from the church. I was over here meeting new people.
Great.
I don't know what you call that.
Obviously enjoying yourself.
Oh, they talk about themselves. I love to learn things about them. I learn a lot. I learn a lot about me too.
Sure, what you do. Well, learning life is, I suppose, a learning experience throughout. We always say.
Sure is.
So you don't have any crafts that you do or anything like that?
That's patience.
Yeah.
I'm a mover. I'm a doer. I tried. I bought a brand new sewing machine. I got a big box full of material.
Yeah.
I'll start, but
what about
I
this?
wish I could, though. It's nice.
It's nice.
It's
Yeah,
nice.
I
I see
understand.
beautiful work that people do.
Yeah, I do too.
Well,
I
I
see
just
it.
admire theirs. Oh, you don't? Then you understand.
Nothing. No. But I see it and I can appreciate it.
Yes.
Do you have any memories, any special memories of just Berkshire County in particular, or Pittsfield? Is this a special place for you to live, or would you rather live someplace else? Or did anything happen here that sort of makes you feel that this is perhaps unusual or different? Since you've lived in other places.
Interesting you should say that, unusual or different. I've never adjusted to Pittsfield. Well, I'm more contented today than I've ever been. When I was younger, I wanted to leave Pittsfield. There are many places that I suppose I could go to because I've traveled to different places that I like better than Pittsfield. But I do have nice memories because, my girlfriend and I, we used to go, on Sundays, we used to go twin bicycling.
Oh, yes, sure.
We used to go twin bicycling. We used to do a lot of things.
Mm-hmm.
We always found things to do, and when we didn't find things to do, we made things to do.
Yeah, you said you went bicycling.
Right, we
bicycling,
would
what else?
give parties.
Okay.
I remember we gave an old clothes party once. I don't know whether you remember that.
I don't remember that,
Parties.
no.
Yeah. And we dressed up, and prizes was given to the one. We was in a club. You remember that big club they had here, Barbara?
Yeah, the Golden Leaf.
Golden Leaf, okay. They didn't want us in that club. So we started our own club. Me and Rosemary started our own club. See, we were doers. We had things going all the time. And we used to do things, and we'd give parties. And we gave this old clothes party where you come in say, an evening gown with a pair of garden gloves, and old cloghopper shoes, and the one that looked the worst got the prize. We do things different. Like that. And we gave another party for something. It was the most exquisite games we could play or something like that. And we gave prizes. See, there was always, that's why we couldn't get involved in the high school, because we were always doing things out here.
Yeah.
I do, yes, that part, Rosemary and I, we were just like this.
Is she still?
She's in San Diego, California. I called her a few weeks ago.
Okay.
She had both hip replacements. So Lillian was here, her sister. Remember Lillian?
I don't remember.
Okay, but it was Rosemary and I was one that was out there.
Okay.
So I have these memories in Pittsfield of, I tell the kids today, you guys don't do things. There are a lot of things you can do that people will come in, but somebody got to get it started.
Get it started, yes. You have to be creative.
Right. And Rosa and I, we used to do that. And we used to cut out and go to New York because I started driving at 17. And we'd leave. I worked at Avaloq. We'd leave Avaloq at 8 o'clock, go to New York, and be back 7 o'clock next morning.
Yeah, I remember doing
Yeah. Well, there were a lot of things we did.
Yeah. one thing I think that young people did do, and they still do here, and they haven't, I don't know what the rest of the world is called out, the rest of the country, learning to drive very early. I remember where I came from in Maryland, certainly didn't at that age, came up here, and by the time you were 16, you were learning to drive.
Right, because I had a car at 17.
Yeah.
My mother bought a car, and it was mine because she couldn't drive.
She could go.
So that was mine.
Oh, that's great.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I remember doing things and being on the go here and meeting people because we used to go to Springfield a lot in Albany, and because I had the car.
Yes.
And I met people and they wasn't friendly.
Yeah.
That was the first time. You know, you speak to them and they look at you.
Yeah.
You know,
Cities.
what are you speaking to me for?
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
Yeah.
I remember those days.
Well, Rosena, this has been delightful. I could talk on and on and on. You have a lot, I'm certain, a lot more
But
to
it
add
has
here,
to
but
cut more.
yes,
Sometime
but I
down
want
the
to.
line.
We're not supposed
Okay.
to just
Okay.
go on and on and on, But I want to thank
So I
you
hope
very
you got
much.
something.
Oh, this is terrific. Yes.
Really?
Yeah, yes, absolutely. This is exactly what we want. Yeah, absolutely. I want to thank you very much for
Oh,
letting
you're
me
very
interview
welcome.
you.
This is
And
different.
It's different, isn't it? Yes.
So you're going to compile.
Yes, we will. Yes. Rosena, now
Okay.
you mentioned something about being a volunteer. Tell us a little bit
Okay.
about
All right. I volunteered because my kids was in the school system, and there was a new program that came on the scene called Follow Through, and I enrolled them in Follow Through. The object of Follow Through was to create parent involvement in their kids' education.
Now, did it start with Head Start and then go?
Head Start, yes.
And then
it went,
Follow
but I
Through
wasn't
to-
involved with Head Start.
Okay,
Follow Through was a federally funded program that they put into the public school. And because of my mouth, and if I see something wrong, I'm going to say it, and they said, well, you be the chairman.
Okay.
So I became the chairman of Follow Through. Out of that experience, we taught parents how to be involved with their children, the importance of their involvement with children, and the fact that they could speak and that they had a voice in the school system. Because parents were very afraid. They figured the teachers knew everything and the principal. And we said, no, they do not. So we involved them in the education of the program. And in so doing, they began to become involved in other aspects of the community. For example, things would happen at the bank. Well, we would go to the bank with them and show them how to become involved with their checking account or whatever. And the various departments, public welfare, whatever. If something came up there, you go and learn how to fight for yourself. This is from the court system. We used to go in the court system, take them in the court system, and begin to show them that you had a voice in what took place, that you don't have to accept what people say.
Okay. And you meant, okay, I don't want that, but I don't want you, I want to make certain you get this in. You were a delegate, or you were appointed, you were asked to go to Washington, or?
Oh, this came out of the program, the follow-through program itself. It was funded through Washington, D.C. And what happened was we had to oversee everything. The finances, the curriculum. We had Nancy Hall. That's how she got hired. We hired Nancy Hall. Okay. We had interviews with the teacher. We learned how to do everything that they did, including where the money was going. So we had to, once a year, go to Washington to negotiate the proposal. We wrote the proposal. And we got expertise in areas that we didn't understand. And we got in a fight with the school department. We had too much power. And the school department had, but we kept it. And then we got into a verbal argument with the newspaper. That's how we learned to personalize. We learned the politics. Because education, the whole ball of wax is when you deal publicly with politics. And that's what we got into. And we even got into the court system. We brought lawyers from Boston to come in and investigate. You see the recordings in the courtrooms today? We were a part of getting that installed. That's the activist part of the community. And that's how it started from that. And then I got involved in a certain cause, and they wanted to prime me for the school committee. And I said, no, it stinks, and I don't want to be involved in the politics.
Politics, yes.
And they wanted me, see, because I had a big mouth and I had a big voice, so they wanted to shut it up.
Yeah. Well, if you were on the school committee, you become one of them.
And I couldn't.
Well, tell me now, is follow through still?
No, it's not. they have the parent involvement now. They call it the PAC PAC. It's the Title I program, and that's what it was, but it's not called Foxhollow. It's a Title I, but it's all rubber stamp now. It's totally different, you know. And that was the object to get it, because when you have a lot of control, you go political.
Yes.
Because then they can't stop you.
I'm glad we brought this up, that you brought this up again. It's terribly important.
Yeah.
Terribly important.
Well, I
So
didn't
what
think about that until
happened
you
in
said it's
Pittsfield.
commercial.